More than 2 decades after her death, new light is constantly being shed on how Princess Diana lived her life. Now, Lady Sarah McAquadale has reportedly revealed that she played matchmaker in the royal love story between Princess Diana and Prince Charles. But this story isn't without its twists and turns, so how much of the crown is true, especially when some stories are too surprising to believe? We'll tell you everything in this video. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Let's get started. Lady Sarah McAquadale recently celebrated 44 years of marriage to her husband, Neil McAquadale. According to reports, Neil is a solid, very stable, reserved, and quiet man with a good sense of humor, the perfect complement to Sarah. However, before Neil came along, there was Charles. Princess Diana's sister Sarah and King Charles, who was then the Prince of Wales, had a brief relationship in 1977 when they were both in their 20s. Sarah first caught Prince Charles's eye at a party at Windsor Castle during Royal Ascot. Prince Charles liked Sarah's lively spirit and irreverent wit, and they made each other laugh. Their brief but sincere romance included polo matches and an invitation to Balmoral. For a time, she was at the center of speculation about Charles's engagement plans in the late 1970s. However, those rumors came to an abrupt halt in 1978 after a skiing trip to Closters. In an interview, Sarah revealed that she was not in love with Charles. She described herself as an impulsive woman, unlike Charles, who preferred slow, developing courtships. "I can assure you that if there had been an engagement between Prince Charles and me, it would have happened." Sarah also admitted that, although she enjoyed being with Charles, she had no intention of marrying him, adding, "I'm not in love with him, and I wouldn't marry anyone I didn't love, whether he was the garbage man or the King of England." Naturally upset by her revelations, Charles reportedly ended their affair. However, both sisters remained in his circle, even attending his 30th birthday party in November at Buckingham Palace. This is where it gets interesting. Despite the end of their relationship, there were no hard feelings, and Sarah later took pride in being the matchmaker for Diana and Charles. Princess Diana, 16, and Prince Charles, 29, first met at a dance at Althorp. At the time, Charles was visiting Sarah at the family's 1,500-acre estate in Northamptonshire. The prince turned to Diana for a tour of Althorp's photo gallery. After an incredible evening, there was no communication between them. Charles and Diana met again in July 1980 when they both attended a polo event in Sussex. Charles and Diana were invited to stay at the family home of their mutual friend Philip de Pass in Sussex for the weekend. Much had changed for Charles in the previous 3 years. For example, as heir to the throne, he faced considerable pressure from his family to find a suitable wife and settle down, and quickly. The options in his age group and social circle were becoming increasingly scarce, and his lifelong love, Camilla Parker Bowles, was married. In another case, Charles had suffered a devastating personal setback following the death of his mentor, Lord Mountbatten, the previous summer. When Diana met Charles again, it simply seemed like the perfect moment. She sensed that the prince could benefit from some tenderness. Sarah may have had an academic record the size of an index card, but her emotional radar was in full working order. She had correctly sensed that the way to get through the royal reserve of the heir to the throne was to appeal to his deep reserves of self-pity. Charles was reportedly moved by Diana's observation that he was lonely and needed caring. The couple supposedly had a deep sense of connection, and things moved quickly between them. In September of that year, Diana was whisked away to Balmoral, the royal family's private estate in the Scottish Highlands. In August 1987, after a nudge from the Queen Mother, Charles proposed to Diana at Windsor Castle. She said yes. At the time, it was said that the couple had only been out on a dozen dates. After that, the press attention on the 19-year-old reached a fever pitch. Although she handled much of the attention gracefully, she once broke down in tears while driving her car. "I know it's just a job they have to do, but sometimes I wish they wouldn't. Diana moved from a small apartment to Clarence's house. The couple formally announced their engagement to the world in February. 4 years later, when Charles and Diana gave their engagement interview, they were asked about their first meeting at Althorpe. Charles recalled somewhat coldly, "I remember thinking what a lovely, funny, attractive young girl she was. She was 16, he continued. "I mean, very funny and full of life and everything." Diana was completely smitten as she raved about how amazing Charles was. When asked if they were in love, Diana didn't waste any time answering. Of course. Charles, on the other hand, offered a discouraging response. He said, "Whatever in love means." Charles and Diana's wedding was the most celebrated event of the 20th century, with thousands of people cheering for the couple on their big day. However, what the excited crowd didn't know was that Diana's heart had already been broken before she even stepped out of her fairy tale carriage. As the royal wedding drew nearer, tension grew. The nation was captivated by the shy but charming future Princess of Wales. For many, it seemed like a real-life fairy tale, but for Diana, the magic was quickly fading. While wedding preparations were in full swing, Charles continued with his royal duties as usual. He embarked on a trip to Australia and New Zealand 5 weeks after presenting Diana with a stunning sapphire ring. Any newly engaged couple would naturally feel anxious about being on opposite sides of the world, but for Diana, there was an extra layer of sadness waiting for her. So how did she go from having butterflies in her stomach to barely feeling any? According to a popular fan theory, Charles and Diana had very different impressions of each other. Diana was completely in love. As for Charles, well, his feelings were more muted. On one occasion, inside sources revealed that when Diana went to say goodbye to Charles at the airport, the phone rang. Supposedly, it was Camilla on the line. She wanted her affectionate goodbye. Instead of ignoring the call to focus on their goodbyes, Charles allegedly answered it. The conversation was so tender that Diana felt heartbroken and forced to leave, hurt by his rejection. She described that moment 10 years later as what broke her heart. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be the last time. There was a lot of speculation that Carlos used Diana. He didn't love her and had no intention of honoring his marriage vows. Many fans think he just needed her heir, and once he got it, he left for the woman he had always loved, Camilla. As you probably know, Carlos's relationship with Camilla ended when she married Andrew Parker Bowles in the summer of 1973. Camilla settled into her new life as a wife and mother, and her friendship with Charles remained platonic in the years that followed. But the couple rekindled their romance shortly after the birth of Camilla's son, as a comfort for the death of Lord Mountbatten. Camilla's husband, unfortunately, was very unfaithful to her, and she was reportedly very lonely in her marriage, so she found comfort in Charles's arms. However, Camilla knew that once Charles got married, the physical aspect of their relationship would end. She had no illusions that it would continue. When Camilla realized that Diana was jealous of her, she took a step back. "Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." She spoke openly about having postpartum depression. A few days before the I do's, there seemed to be trouble in paradise after Diana found a bracelet Carlos had made for Camilla, but her sisters said it was too late to call it off. Despite their supposedly troubled union, Diana walked down the aisle in July 1981. The royal wedding took place at St. Paul's Cathedral, with an estimated 750 million people watching their nuptials at Westminster Abbey. Diana wore a dress by Elizabeth and David Emanuel. Well, not all fairy tales have a happy ending. As you've probably guessed, their marriage was contentious, and their divorce was messy. However, Diana and Charles reportedly shared some moments of true happiness. For example, when they had their children. In June 1982, the couple had their first son, Prince William. 2 years later, they welcomed their second son, Prince Harry. However, things soon began to go wrong. Diana suffered from postpartum depression. You wake up in the morning feeling like you don't want to get out of bed. You feel misunderstood and very, very depressed with yourself, she told the BBC in 1995. The couple was reportedly extremely unhappy with their marriage, but that wasn't all. Diana suffered from bulimia for more than 3 years and inflicted injuries on her arms and legs. She said she just wanted to tell her side of the story. The House of Windsor faced challenges due to the extramarital affairs of both Charles and Diana. Charles resumed his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, and Diana reportedly had several affairs of her own. In a letter to an unidentified correspondent, Charles wrote about how horrible incompatibility is and how tremendously destructive it can be for those involved. Charles and Camilla saw each other again in 1986 when Charles invited her and her husband, Andrew, to tea at Highgrove. In the months that followed, Charles and Camilla's friendship developed, and by 1987, the couple was romantically involved again. Andrew continued to be unfaithful to Camilla, and she did not feel loved or appreciated by him in their marriage. Meanwhile, Diana, by that time, had allegedly had affairs with several men, the first of whom was her bodyguard, Barry Manakee. She was also allegedly seeing James Hewitt, a former cavalry officer in the British Army. It was at this point that Charles allegedly returned to Camilla. The couple were leading very separate lives at this point. In the years that followed, Charles and Diana were plagued by rumors of marital problems. The rumors began to gain momentum in 1987 after Diana did not join Charles on the annual family trip to Balmoral. During several public appearances, they appeared distant and unhappy. To give the appearance of unity, the couple vacationed together in November 1992 in South Korea. They looked so miserable that the British press dubbed them the sad couple. Thus, a fairy tale marriage cooled into an arrangement. The following month, Prime Minister John Major announced in the House of Commons that the Prince and Princess of Wales were separating. He read a statement from Buckingham Palace saying that the decision had been taken by mutual consent. Neither Charles nor Diana commented on their alleged separation. Instead, Charles attended a business lunch and Diana visited a clinic in the northeast of England. According to reports, there was no third party involved in the decision. This drama plunged the monarchy into a deep crisis. The news of the separation came at a time when the credibility of the monarchy was at its lowest point in modern times due to persistent reports alluding to marital scandals and the luxurious lifestyle of some members of the royal family. In a 1995 interview with the BBC, Diana said she felt a deep, deep sadness over her decision. "We fought to keep it together, but obviously, we both ran out of steam." After reaching an agreement in July, Prince Charles and Princess Diana's divorce was finalized in August 1996. Diana received a substantial financial settlement, but not without being stripped of her Royal Highness status. Tragically, her newly liberated post-royal life was cut short after a fatal car accident in Paris a year later. In January 1999, Charles and Camilla made their first public appearance together as a couple. Their engagement was announced on February 10, 2005, and they were married just a couple of months later in April in a civil ceremony at Windsor Town Hall. The wedding was followed by a blessing service at St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. 4 decades later, many fans still wonder what Sarah and Diana's lives might have been like if Sarah had played her cards right. However, it seems that for Sarah, a more humble marriage to a wealthy Lincolnshire farmer, rather than fighting on the royal front line, was the true path to happiness. Lady Sarah married Neil Edmund McCorquodale in 1980. The couple opted for a modest ceremony. The wedding was held at the small church of St. Mary's near Althorpe, and the reception was at the family estate. On her wedding day, Lady Sarah wore a high-necked lace dress, along with the famous Spencer family tiara and a classic bouquet of white flowers. The Spencer tiara, which was made by Gerrards, has an elaborate design of stylized flowers decorated with diamonds in silver mounts. It is said to date back to the 18th century and was given to Diana's grandmother, Cynthia, Viscountess Althorpe. It was a wedding gift from a distant relative, Lady Sarah Spencer, in 1919. While the three Spencer sisters wore the piece at their weddings, their mother, Frances Shand Kidd, did not wear it when she married into the Spencer family in 1954. The couple is still married today and has 3 children together: Emily Jane McCorquodale, Celia Rose McCorquodale, and George Edmund McCorquodale. After the wedding, Lady Sarah and Diana remained close. The sisters would go on vacation with their children, and Sarah even became one of Diana's bridesmaids between 1992 and 1997. It was a reversal of their childhood dynamic, in which Diana adored her older sister, even working as a cleaner in a rental house that Sarah managed for her father. Rumors suggest that Sarah's support may have extended to turning a blind eye to the ups and downs of Diana's love life. Diana once referred to Sarah as the only person she could trust. Sources revealed that Sarah allegedly knew about Diana's romances. The closeness between the sisters was evident even after Diana's death. At Diana's funeral, Lady Sarah read a poem in her honor. She also acted as executor of Diana's will and became chair of the Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Fund until its closure in 2012. Sarah has maintained a close relationship with the royal family and spends time with her nephews, Diana's sons, Prince Harry and William, Prince of Wales. Today, Sarah and Neil live near Grantham, Lincolnshire, where in 2009 she served a 1-year term as High Sheriff of Lincolnshire. Sarah has shown that she is in no hurry to give up her reputation for being a little wild. On her 60th birthday, Sarah's friends and family celebrated her with a huge cake in the shape of a pack of silk-cut cigarettes, in homage to her love of smoking. Sarah's close connection to Diana also extends to her children. Sarah and her other sister, Lady Jane Fellows, are a constant presence in the lives of William and Harry. Sarah was at both weddings, as well as the christening of Harry's son, Archie, in 2019. Many fans think that Prince Harry particularly identifies with his Spencer family. Not only does Harry look a lot like a Spencer with his red hair, but he also reportedly calls his aunts, Sarah and Jane, his red aunts. Sarah's children, Emily, George, and Celia, are close to their Windsor cousins. But we want to know your thoughts on this. What do you think Diana's life would have been like if she had never met Prince Charles? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.